Hello, welcome back to another video tutorial here at GeekatPlay Studios. My name is Gary Miller. One of the things that Vue does very well is the rendering of the new Spectral 2 clouds. Unfortunately, oftentimes, while it is very high quality, you are often left with clouds that exhibit a great deal of noise in them. The noise that you see here by all these speckled dots. Fortunately, there is a easy way to not render them, but that means you have to increase the quality settings of your clouds in the atmosphere editor, which can increase the render time of your image by 3-4 times the normal rendering amount. And what you're left with are great looking clouds when it's all done and over with, but good grief, you've got to spend a great deal of time locking up your computer just to render an image. Well, in this image, I purposely set the quality of the clouds to 0 so that I would have this noise in here, and especially you really see it here all along here where these two layers combine. Let's see where else. Oh, you've got it all along here. Well, just for the purpose of this demonstration, I made sure I have lots of noise in here, and this render took only 12 minutes. It's not the greatest, but that's the purpose of it. Now, if you bring this into post work, you can get rid of it very easily. Come over here and grab your blurring brush, set the blur strength to a desirable amount, and let me come in here. And if you want to spend the time, you can come in here and apply some blurring to this, and it will take care of it all for you. And just find the areas that are the most offensive in terms of their blur amount. But depending upon the size of your final render and the amount of noise that's in your image, you could be looking at spending 10, 15, 20 minutes blurring these areas just to get rid of this noise. Okay, I've very lightly gone over this area. Let me back out and we'll do kind of a before and after preview to see how effective it was. This is with using blur, and that's without, with, without. You see it especially down here, not so much up there. Let's look over here in this area. Well, that's much more noticeable. It's a lot smoother and it looks a lot nicer. Well, let's go back to the view of our original render. I'm going to use a filter here to reduce all this noise and have Photoshop do it for me rather than have to do it manually. So I'm going to come up here to filter. Now I purposely have my Photoshop screen extended off of the visual boundaries here because I want more real estate here to see more of my image. But to apply this filter, I'm going to come up to Filter, Noise, and Reduce Noise. Now let me zoom in here. This is the view of my clouds without the filter applied, and this is the view of my clouds with the filter applied. Now I have the strength set fairly low. This is none. Now this is the image in its default state, but just increasing the strength of this filter a few levels, you see that the noise quickly goes away. Look at this area here with the filter applied, with the filter applied, with the filter applied, and amazingly enough, it is doing a good job preserving the color shifts in the billowing effect of the clouds. It's not blurring at all, so it's just like a watercolor stain. You still have that uh, billowing effect in the clouds. Now you're going to get that in the preserve detail slider. Of course, if you preserve too much details, you may end up not getting rid of the noise that you want to get rid of. So you kind of got to play with the preserve details slider here until you find a sweet spot for your image. That's preserving no details, that's preserving all of them. I'm just going to back this off until I get a smoother transition. Let's see, that's about 50. There we are. I want the reduce color noise down to 0, sharpen details. Well, I definitely don't want sharpen details, so I'm going to leave that down to 0. Now here's why I had that building in the foreground. If I leave the remove JPEG artifacts unchecked, this is the effect that it produces for my building. If I choose remove JPEG artifacts that the filter will introduce by executing it, this is the effect. So that's kind of a before and after, before and after. So if you are rendering an image with clouds and you have objects in your, models in your image, whether they're JPEGs, bitmap, that sort of thing, you may experience a slight corruption or a slight alteration in the appearance of them when you run this filter. So that is why I put this model in this image so that you can see a before and after. And this is probably not the best model to use, but notice this is without the filter. I have a lot of crisp details. If I try to remove them, I lose some of that detail. So you may want to choose a setting that you like. Actually, I think I'm going to go without it, and I'm going to click OK. Let's zoom in here and see the before and after. Now this is with the noise filter applied. That is without. After, before, after, before, and after. Now, granted, I was a little bit long-winded in explaining much of the use of this filter, but when you go and do this yourself, you'll be able to execute the effects of this filter in a fraction of the time in which you saw me execute it here and explain it. So I think realistically it would take you 1 minute to execute this filter on your images, and you will save hours upon hours upon hours of rendering time because you would have increased the quality of your clouds. But here in Photoshop, you can remove all that noise, still preserving the essential details in your clouds in a fraction of the time. So that's it for this tutorial here at GeekatPlay Studios. Thanks for watching. My name is Gary Miller. Have a good day.